The first mention of tithing in the Bible is in Genesis. In chapter 14, Abram meets Melchizedek, the priest of God Most High. Having just recovered spoils from his enemies, Abram receives a blessing from Melchizedek and gave him a tenth of all. Through this act, Abram testifies about his gratitude to God and his loyalty to Him. Important truths can be learned from the interaction between Abram and Melchizedek before the act of tithing. First, blessing comes before tithing. Before Abram could tithe, Melchizedek blessed him, saying, "Blessed be Abram of God Most High." This indicates that God's blessings always come before tithing. There is no tithe without a previous financial blessing because we tithe in response to what God has already given us. Second, God owns everything. Melchizedek refers to God as the possessor of heaven and earth. This implies that Abram, like the rest of us, was not the true owner of his possessions. Tithing becomes then a recognition of God's ownership of everything we have. We are merely stewards of what God has entrusted to us. Third, God has the power to deliver us from harm. Melchizedek reminds Abram that it was God who has delivered our enemies into your hand. Abram's victory was due to God's intervention, not his military prowess. When we worship God on the Sabbath and return our tithes and offerings, we acknowledge that God has granted us victories and blessings throughout the week or month. For those who call upon the generous God of heaven, keeping the Sabbath and returning tithes and offerings are signs of their allegiance to Him. In turn, those who are God's are invited to share in His bounty. He who abundantly blesses us wants us to emulate Him, also being generous and blessing others. May we put our desires last and God first.